Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to tonight. I don't know about you guys, but it's so weird, the tech, and I'm going to talk about this with Steve. It feels different to me. A phone call on the landline, if you remember back that far, a phone call when you're walking by a payphone and it rings. The feeling now of when a phone rings is completely different. Unless you still have a landline in the house and most people call you on that landline and you still have everybody running for the phone. Do you remember what that was like? Am I dating myself? Hello and welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for we had a wonderful show last night with Brian Bowden, and this wonderful man here, Steve Stockton, is about to come on, and all this fantastic chat. I can't tell you how much you guys add to everything, and all of your information. And tonight we're going to need you again. I want you to be thinking if you ever got a freaky phone call. Now, was it just a phone call that was, like a prank phone call that was a pain in the neck, or was it? Did you get the heavy breathing? Looking back at how much we joke now when we see an old movie and, somebody picks up the phone and somebody's just, or not saying anything and just breathing regular, not even putting any emphasis on it. And the person just absolutely coming unglued and unhinged on the other side. Who is this? What's going on? Stop this. Don't call here anymore. Just whatever they're yelling. Because I think it has something to do with just the absolute unknown factor to it all, and how much a phone is very much almost like a portal in a way. If it's just ringing and you don't have any identification whatsoever on, who it is, we didn't know back in the day, just picked it up and said hello, and somebody said, is this such and such? And you said, yeah, it was or it wasn't. So you didn't know who was on the other side. And a couple of times, Steve and I have talked about the Ouija board like that. So let's get Steven. Look at this beautiful darling. Look at this beautiful darling. When Steve's ready, he can come in here. I'm waiting for, he just had to dip out for a second. But also I wanted to say alert as far as some housekeeping. So I was a little late tonight. Sorry. I was having some problems with Rumble. So Rumble is different the way you set up streaming to them. And you have to put in, you set up that little, they have a placeholder video. It's not just cover art like it is in YouTube. And you put a little video there and it holds your place, I guess, for, 8:00 in my case, And as I'm setting up this stream, the Rumble keeps dropping out. And when I look at my screen, I have bubbles up here that say, I'm live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on Rumble, yada, yada. Okay. And it kept getting this red exclamation point saying that Rumble shut off the stream. And I'm like, well, the stream hasn't started yet. And then it gave me some little, block thing that said, well, maybe they shut it off because you didn't start in time. You have to start within 24 hours. So I'm like, I just set it up 2 hours ago. So sorry about that. We're still knocking out some things. I would imagine it's something that they were having error on the page, because every time I'd go there to try to set up the live, it was like I'd never done it. And then I couldn't find my channel at all. And I thought, oh my God, they just, they've given me the old hook, pulled me right off the stage, which is again possible at any time. But if you're having any problems over there, please let me know. We have 11 in the chat over in 11. Absolutely loving these emojis. If you haven't been over on the Rumble chat, please go just for the emojis alone. We've got a twerking Santa, a dancing Winnie the Pooh, a big old heart, and a sparkly ghost, and a bunch of wonderful people over there. Lindsay Gray Wolf is over there. We got Henry over there. Lulu Bell, Ian's over there. You got me in there, and of course you got Pooh dancing with Santa. So that is so great. Oh, did it say not available 15 minutes ago? Did it really? I don't know what, sometimes there'll be glitches, and sometimes, especially at prime times, they'll get so much. There's probably all kind of shows going on right now, especially with everything we've had today. Daniel Penny was found not guilty. God bless him. And they caught the shooters. So let's get Steve in here to talk about for the United Health Group, or the CEO that Thompson, I think his name was.
So they caught the kid today. I say kid because I think he's, everybody's a kid to me. So I think he went into a McDonald's and one of the workers there recognized him and turned him in. Saw him taken away in cuffs. So I guess we'll have to see how that story plays out. But before we go any further, let's get Mr. Stockton up here. You know him as, the wonderful storyteller, wonderful author, fantastic narrator, wonderful channels, terrific, beautiful family, the Stocktons, little Holden. I'm looking at his little picture here. He's just growing like a little weed. And it's just wonderful to see. So, Mr. Steve Stockton, my friend and yours, get in here, baby.
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great, babe. I love that hat.
That's a Boston Scally cap.
I love it. It's like a Peaky Blinders. By order the Peaky Blinders.
They've got hundreds of different styles.
Any razor blades up in there?
No, not yet. But,
Did you watch the Peaky Blinders?
I've never seen it, but I know about it.
It's more of a me series than a, Steve. I watched some crazy stuff. But anyway, I love Peaky Blinders. First couple seasons. Yeah, isn't this wonderful? These wonderful people in chat. So,
we got here.
Did you
Lisa
hear me talking about the Rumble?
Very well, Paranormal. Henry
hey, Amber,
Nelson,
welcome in.
Cara,
hey, RP.
RP Skies. Henry Nelson's here.
It's Henry.
And,
Henry was saying he was getting some flack over here too. So it looks like now are we 5-5 over there? Everybody in the chat over in Rumbles, it's even like 5-5 over there. Smooth sailing and all that kind of stuff. Hello came over from YouTube. Hey, Clashmere. I love that name. That's beautiful. So everything seems to be working well. You can hear, I don't know, some kind of glitch, Steve. I mean, this is only like the 4th time I'm live over here on Rumble. I mean, I've been on Rumble since they started the darn thing, at least the week of. And but from this end of it, trying to see, hey, that's happened before. I know to do this. That's happened before. I've seen that happen before. So all I got to do is like back out of it and refresh or something. I haven't learned all that stuff yet. So I'm just pushing buttons and going, what's happening? Because they kept telling me I didn't have a live stream. And I'm like, I know I have a live stream. So fantastic. So what's been going on with you, bud?
Just hanging out, working on stuff. It's light rain and 39 degrees here in my corner of New England. No snow today, but there's still some laying around. The old timers that say laying around waiting for more.
Is that what they said?
Wednesday is supposed to be up to almost 60, so not going to be any snow then.
Crazy. Yeah, it's been gray here for like 2 days, just gray. But of course, we get so many damn drones in the sky, you can't see the sun anyway. No. So I'm in Jersey, as everybody knows. But, it's crazy and hasn't let up. I am real proud. Last night we showed a couple of videos of Tom's River, which is not far from me. And these guys were just not having it. They was, we got our own drones. They started throwing their drones up there. I don't know that they got any results or what became of the whole thing, but I know they weren't just standing by and letting it happen. They were sending, I guess the cats after the rats or something, you know what I mean? So, and I was glad to see that somebody's doing something, I'd have been happy if I'd seen an old lady with a bucket of rocks chucking at it,
really.
Somebody do something. I mean, at least let us know what's going on. So it's
some shrimp nets and a kite.
That's what I said. I said 2 Chinooks and a shrimp net. We'll get her done, go to lunch. I mean, I don't know what the big holdup is.
Mess of drones.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously, people were saying in the chat, because we were all over the place last night as far as in channels, and God bless y'all for doing it. But, I was trying to go in the chats to see if anybody was genuinely concerned, if they need, because I don't want anybody to be afraid. That's not our intent at all. It's the absolute opposite. It's like, don't be scared, be prepared. All I'm saying is I love that cup. I don't want anybody to be, that's just, they've got the colors going. Looks like it'd be right at home in the White House, the way they got it decorated over there. It looks like you're living inside the insane clown posse pockets in the damn White House right now. I mean, have y'all seen it? If we have time, remind me, I'll pull up the pictures.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
We've never seen nothing like it.
Speaking of Christmas,
some
got that picture there that
clown on acid.
That's speaking of Christmas. Look at that picture that.
Oh, the baby. Let's get the baby up here.
Yeah, there's
Oh my
holding
goodness. Look at
in
those
front of
eyes.
our
Oh my God.
tree, and
Oh,
you
in
can't
front of
really
you.
see the ornament, but it says
I see
Holden's
it.
first
Holden's
Christmas
first.
2024.
Gosh,
And
how is he this big?
his great grandmother gave him that.
Did Nick take my advice to start feeding him potatoes and gravy?
I
Like they
think
did back in the day.
he loves his bottle. He's serious about it. But
I'm telling you what.
he looks serious right there. I think it was about time to feed him. He wasn't sure what to think about the tree, but he likes it.
Yeah, he'll lay there and watch the blinking. Put him on a blanket, let him sit up under it and watch him look up through it,
Yeah, he's got all kinds of toys that flash and play music and stuff. So he likes that sort of thing.
Just wonderful. Just wonderful. Good to see him. He couldn't look better. Look at you, darling. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Take lots of pictures. I'm telling you right now. It goes
we've
by
got
so fast. You
lots
can't
of
even.
pictures. Yeah.
I know, right, Amber? Any sweet? Any sweet? And hey, Lisa, if we didn't say hi to you, I didn't get to say hi to you. Did I miss anybody else? Saw Vixen in here earlier. Vixen, you still here, darling? I hope so. I hope so. If anybody see Scott, say hi. I hadn't seen Ted. Talk to him today. I think he's doing okay.
Ted would be here. He's usually here. And I
Yep.
saw Ann Palmer in here earlier. Marie Palmer, I think she's going by now.
Yes, I think so.
Chad Smith.
She said she's lurking.
Hanging
Yep.
AZ.
So let's do a little poll. Who here has gotten one of those calls? I mean, even if it was, hey, Uncommon Belief, welcome in. That just scared you and freaked you out. Do you know what I mean, Steve? I don't know how much you heard that I said in the beginning, but it seems to me different with the landline. It was different.
Cell phone, you just close it and be done. But
yeah, when the phone rang, everybody ran.
Who here has made those kind of calls?
But how many movies? Dial M for Murder. What was that one? Was it Scream? I'm in the house, or I Know What You Did Last Summer. It seemed like a lot of the landlines were still being used around that in those movies.
Took part even in Poltergeist. They're here. There was always a phone. No, I think that was the TV, wasn't it? Anyway. Yeah. Now the phone. There's just something eerie about a phone. It's a disembodied voice. You're listening to it. It's almost
don't know who it is. Could be anybody.
Like electronic seance. You didn't know back in the day. You picked it up. And it used to bug the crap out of me. You pick it up and somebody would say, "Who's this?" Well, who are you trying to call? Who are you? I'm not going to tell you. Who are you?
Yeah, I experienced, wrong numbers. We used to get one when I was in high school, where I was living with my aunt and uncle. The phone would ring to be at the bottom of the stairs, base of stairs on a little table, and usually a chair sitting next to it, pen, pencil right there at the table. Or in a little drawer in that table. Everybody had a telephone table. And then you had what you don't see anymore, address books. And you had the address book with the little tab with the letters on it. You'd flip to that person's last name and call that number. Yeah, but all that was right there.
Folded, open and closed, and had a little thing on the side
on the tab.
To the alphabet. And then you press the thing and it opened up to those entries.
I remember that. I remember it had a little a pedal that you push and it pop up. Yep. Oh man, I remember that. But there's a difference too, I think, Steve, with the fact of, I don't know whether it's because it's connected, the wire's connected. You and I have told that story multiple times about the Twilight Zone. And it's an older lady. She's infirm. She has a nurse that comes every day. I never understood why the nurse would come in the day, put her in the bed, and then leave. I mean, what a time to be alone in the middle of the night. That part I don't like. But she's getting calls. Now, the phone's right by her bed. And she acted a lot like my Nana acted when the phone rang. You were not allowed to talk on the phone when it was thundering and lightning. And there was other rules about the phone, and she had to answer it. You didn't answer that phone. So the phone rings, she answers it. This is in the Twilight Zone. And she's getting that heavy breathing. Like, who is this? And she's doing all that, who is this? And, I'll call the police or all this other stuff. She's getting static. She's getting, I think, a little breathing maybe. And this happens like 3 or 4 times. And it just turns into this, just a snowball of, neurotic, anxiety, fear, thing going on. And, I'm not blaming her. I mean, here she is all by herself. She doesn't know this person. Again, I think it had that stigma to it. It's like, where is this person? Who is this person? What do they want? and you've let them into your house by answering this phone, at least their voice and their vibration, I always say, and their energy, trust me.
It was a
So,
violation of personal
yeah,
space.
right. And everybody thinks she's nuts. The nurse thinks she's nuts. And she's like, oh, it's nothing. It's a wrong, whatever. They go through all the thing, talk to the operator. Nobody do anything. At the end of the Twilight Zone, it's found that during a storm, the telephone wire broke, landed on a grave, and it happened to be her husband. And she was just realizing it was her husband, and he was just starting to call her, be able to talk a little bit, and gaining up his energy. And she had yelled at him before that and said, don't bother me anymore. And you find out that they had died in a car accident. That's how she got, handicapped, crippled, and he had died. And he said, I always do what you tell me. And he hung up, and that was it. Now she's screaming for him to come back. It was a traumatizing episode, as all Twilight Zones were, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. But
there was something.
That's one of the ones that it stayed with me for years and years and years. I never forgot that episode.
Yeah. I mean, profound, very profound. And of course you do the normal thing. You wonder, could that ever happen? And isn't that neat? They showed the wire connecting to him. So supposedly if he was there in that grave, he could connect through the wires, that kind of thing. But now I want everybody to think about that. If you've seen that episode, now imagine it with cell phones. It's just different. It's hard to make it as creepy with a cell phone. I'm sure there's other ways you could do it. You'd have to add, or detract from it to get that same effect. But I think there's something about a connected wire, telephone line, a landline. I think that's really incredible. So does everybody remember, if you can remember having a landline? I can remember all the way back to party lines. I can remember, I've got stories of picking up that phone, right, Steve?
Yeah.
You probably had them too, and you picked it, and you had to wait for everybody to stop talking so you could make the call.
I would, try to disturb them.
Did you?
They wouldn't go, and you could hear somebody pick up when you were talking sometimes.
Right. I can remember
that down.
When I was 3 or 4, we had one at the haunted farmhouse, and I can remember picking it up, and there was always people in the phone, talking, yammering, whatever. That was kind of neat. But people now are just not going to realize what it was like then. I think every house had its own stigma around the phone. It was, some people didn't answer it during dinner. We didn't answer it during Dallas playing Steelers in the Super Bowl. We take it off the hook, that kind of thing. It's different. And tonight we're going to go through a couple of things, a couple of different type of phone calls like that can really put you over. But I want you guys to think about it. What is just so scary about that? When just somebody could just pick up the phone and just breathe. Maybe not even, the overemphasized breathing. Just breathe.
Anything, just hold the phone on you. That used to drive folks crazy.
And I mean, what is it about that just freaks everybody out? It's the unknown. And I think that's, tapping on it.
You said something beyond their control. Like, you can't make them talk. You can hang up, but then if they call back, then there you go again. Mm-hmm. I've had that happen where something was wrong with the other person's phone. They called me. I couldn't hear anything, and I was, yelling and fussing out. I did that to my brother one time, and he showed up at the house and said, that was me calling. The phone's messed up. It
was messed up. We used to take unscrew the bottom, when you had the round receiver, and you could mess around with the speaker and stuff and make it so, they couldn't hear you. Talking, we did all kinds of stuff like that. And we talked about the tones too, and we started getting the touch tones.
Yeah, the microphone, take the disc microphone out there. There was two little silver contacts in there. You could put clear nail polish on those, then put it back. Then whoever was talking on it couldn't be heard.
You do all kinds of stuff like that. And that's where you look for bugs too, back in the day. That and lampshades, things like that. But there was all these things, like the rules around the phone, and now it's just different because it's not anchored anywhere. I think, I can remember my mom was, going to come home late from work. We're waiting for her phone call. I'm looking forward to hearing from my mom. I'm like 6, 7, and I can remember my mother's mother, my grandmother. The phone rings. We both get up and run for the phone to try to beat it to the phone. She tripped over the leg of the coffee table and broke her arm. And I will never forget being in that emergency room with my mom and my grandmother and everybody else, and her getting a cast and me thinking it was all my fault. And I had the coolest mom in the world and said, "It's not your fault." She said, "You're 6 years older," whatever age I was. She goes, she's an adult. She should know better. It took me completely off the hook. And if that had been a cell phone, it's just different. It's just different. And teenagers could only go so far because they were tethered.
Yeah.
So you had to find all these ways of laying on the floor with your feet up on the wall, talking on the phone or whatever you were doing, trying to, whatever important subject you were talking about, the 13-year-old girls back in the day. But guys, they still don't like really talking on the phone. I think the next generation coming up is changing, but most guys just don't like being on the phone or having to deal with people on the phone. You know what I mean? It's a little different, but that might be changing too. And you touched on something about, we had talked before about Ouija boards, and it is like that. Like, did you ever you're walking home, whatever, back in the day, and you go by a phone booth and it rings?
Yeah.
And now they've had horror movies about it, haven't they?
Yeah.
Phone booth. I think that was a good one.
Where the assassin was watching the guy, and he's like, "If you put down the phone, I'm going to shoot somebody."
Oh, so good.
And I've done the opposite of that. I got the numbers for the pay phones at the mall before, and I'd call and let it ring and ring and ring. And when somebody finally answer, would make up something. "Hey, this is from so and so from WRJZ. You just won the contest for picking up the phone. Go to Spencer's and go up to the counter and say RJZ rocks me," or something like that, and people would actually do it.
Yeah.
There was no contest. It was just seeing how far
dorm, a dorm or a hotel. Hey, can you knock on 11 and tell them I'm out here or whatever. I think so much of that has changed, and I miss the old. I think they've gotten very expensive now to get. Is the old English red boxes. You see them in a lot of restaurants and things like that, but those things were just so neat. Those and the little post boxes they have out there make the best Christmas cards. But tonight we're going to talk about one. Had you ever heard of this case, the Sudbrick? It's a hard name.
I've heard the recordings before. I've got some questions.
I do too.
I'll wait till we get into it because
I do too. But I think you're going to enjoy the path I want to take you on, because to me, Steve, I'm getting a real Indrid cold kind of feel. I'm getting a little, what's his name? John, you know who I mean. That wrote the Keel. And I'm looking for a video because when I was working with the Rumble, it knocked all my videos off. So just give me a second. I've got it. But it's giving me that kind of a vibe. And when I heard these, the first time I was like, okay, that's really freaky. The second time I listened to it, I'm trying to, analyze it a little bit more and listen for things. The wording, the cadence, the whole, and then matching it up to stuff we already know. I think it's a little deeper. Now, I just listened to a interview. Now, I'll give you a little of the background on it, but Gary said, it's such a hard name, Sudbrick. I believe he's a lieutenant in the Air Force. He worked in the pharmaceuticals there. I know he had something to do with pharmaceuticals and the chemistry and everything like that. He wasn't, a flyer and all that, pilot and all. But he's in Texas at the time that this is happening in like 92. And he's got a younger brother and an older brother, his mom and dad, and he's from Long Island. And that's where that's where his whole family is, in Long Island. And he's going to surprise everybody. Nobody knew that he was coming home. He was coming home early because his brother was going to get married. So, no, excuse me. He was coming home. His brother had already been married. Now, before this incident, his brother had an incident first, I believe. And I've got some slides, and we're going to take turns reading. I don't want to put it all on you, but once you put all this together, Steve, I think there's more to it. I think there's a little bit more. The first time I heard it, I thought, okay, this is him, doing a tape, somebody's doing a prank, something along those lines. And it's very easy, I think, to fall into that category.
I thought, because when you hear the tapes play back, they're recording the ringing on the other end. So they're not recording it on the answering end. It's on the calling end, it sounds to me like.
It's so odd. Yeah, so many different things. And please, point all that stuff out, because like I said, I'm leaning more on the big picture of it all. And it all could be a lie, could all be a hoax. Everybody could be telling a fib. And if you start looking, now, Steve, you'll know more about this than I would. If you start looking at when Keel was releasing stuff about the things that he was talking about, with Indrid Cold and phone calls and MIB, the Men in Black, and this type of thing. What year span was that? Was that in the late 70s, or did he not really release that info till later when he put the book?
I'm getting my timelines messed up. It might not have been until later.
Yeah. So if he's the source, and again, I'm just speculating, we're just spitballing. If he's the source for most of that information, Keel, because that's kind of what we picked up when we were doing the Mothman episodes, right? Am I close? If he's the source for that, he's the one that's kind of calling the Men in Black because they had pestered that one reporter, journalist that he was getting a lot of information from, right? Correct me if I'm wrong here. And then he collected all this information and then kind of put it together in the book. And he kind of mashed up the Indrid Cold with Mothman and the other events, which kind of brought them all together. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah. I think
okay. So if that's the source, this guy and his events in 93, which was when the phone calls happened, his brother had an incident in 92, and his uncle and his father had an incident of their own weeks before the calls started. So to me, just looking at it like that, with just that information, it almost looks like it happened not either right before Keel released everything, right?
Yeah.
Or just around the same time. And it would take a lot for them to have all of this stuff match up so well, unless he reads Keel's book and just says, okay, this is what happened. Here's some recordings, because that could also be true. But I guess we'll never know. Now, I just saw an interview with him not too long ago. It was within the last 10 years. He doesn't do many interviews, and he's very sporadic about things. He sits and he thinks. It's not like you sit down and you just tell a short story about something that happened and it's exactly word for word as stated. And I think a lot of people have taken a lot of leeway when they tell the story too. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you what I know to be true as it was stated by Gary himself. And you guys got to be, your own judge on this. Now, again, I find this frightening and hysterical at the same time, but I'm looking at it from the eyes of a Jersey girl who appreciates a good Staten Island family and the way they all run for the phone. And it's like, I'm almost picturing like Archie Bunker's household, where you got Edith and she's in the kitchen running back and forth. And one guy's there standing on the phone talking, and everybody's yelling at him while he's on the phone, and he's trying to hear, and you hear them in the background. It's hysterical to me. And I can see with their personalities, stereotypical New Yorker kind of the ways they're going about that. It's really kind of funny. So you might get that same thing too. But I've got some slides here to kind of ease us into it. And I tried to break it down into chunks so you could better digest it, if that makes sense. And again, you got to be your own judge on this stuff. But so Steve, we're going to do some reading. Is that cool with you? We can take turns.
Let's go.
And if it's too small, let me know. I tried to get
No, I can
just
see
the
it.
important stuff, but my chair's caught. But go ahead, sweetie. If
Early
you
in
can see it.
1992, Stephen Sudbrick was driving alone on his way to Long Island, New York. He was driving to his wedding. As he made his way along the highway, he noticed a car in his rearview mirror. He recognized the car. It was his older brother, Gary's car. He was a little surprised to see him driving. Gary lived in Texas, and Stephen had assumed he would be flying in for the wedding. Stephen smiled and waved at his brother as he kept speed alongside him so he could see his brother sitting alone in the driver's seat. He wasn't even looking at the road, just staring at Stephen. Gary just started making strange faces at Stephen. This was very odd, and it seemed Gary wasn't even looking at the road, but Stephen just assumed his brother was goofing around, and suddenly Gary sped up and disappeared off into the distance at an alarming rate. Later at the wedding, Steve asked Gary about this odd behavior on the road. Gary had no idea what he was talking about and had rented a different car from the airport that day. So starts the odd events in Sudbrick's life. You're muted, Cisco.
I am. Boy, I'll tell you what. I muted Cisco. I got to get that T-shirt. So imagine, if you will, the older brother. I believe he was the older one, Stephen. He's getting married, and everybody is just relocating back to Long Island. They're getting married somewhere around, that hometown. Okay. So everybody's coming home. At this point in time, Gary is living in Texas. So Stephen, while he's driving, he's thinking to himself, I thought Gary was flying in. I can't imagine why you'd be driving. So he's thinking all these things because the car's coming up in his rearview mirror and he's starting to recognize the car. The car pulls around to the side of him, and the guy driving is his brother, Gary. And he's just looking at him and smiling. He's not saying anything. He's just smiling, making goofy faces at him and stuff. And he's not even looking where he's driving. And he's driving kind of fast. And he said that this lasted for a little bit, and enough for him to be thinking, what is he doing? He's starting to get worried. And then all of a sudden, when he's worried about he's going to slam into something, Gary just keeps looking at him, smiling, and speeds up, goes ahead of him, and disappears off into the distance. And Stephen's like, what the heck was that? He didn't stop and say anything to me. He didn't, nothing. So he's just, well, I got to get married and all the things that entails. So he just slips back into everything he had to do. Gets to the wedding. They get, married. Gary's not a part of the party, so he's mostly off with the wedding party, getting ready, getting married. And then after the fact, when he can walk around and finally talk to Gary, he's like, man, what was that stump back there in the car? And what are you doing driving here? I thought you were going to fly in. You told me you were coming into such and such airport. But you brought your car. And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, I was at, the airport and I rented a car, but my car's back in Texas. And again, you're at a wedding, it's getting blown off. People are coming in, shaking hands and stuff. So the conversation was very short. They didn't think a whole lot of it. They just blew it off. Now we jump ahead a little bit. And Gary has decided he's going to surprise everybody, and he's got a little time he can take off. So he's going to surprise everybody and go back home to Long Island. He's got a friend there named Mike. He's got his other brother and his parents, and of course, his hometown. So he decides he's going to take this flight. He doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't. He even said, and I just learned this in the new interview today that I found, that he was actually living with a girlfriend, and that girlfriend, for some reason, I guess she had called in. This is going back to 93. So your student can call in and get your paper tickets and pick them up, that kind of thing. So I guess she called in and used his means to pay for it or whatever and scheduled it maybe, but it had his first and middle name and her last name, which was weird. And he said that he didn't even realize that till after the fact, which again, it was different going to airports in 93. Okay. You'd never get away with that now. And I don't know how it got through then because his ID wouldn't match. But isn't that strange, Steve?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in this whole thing that doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's far too elaborate to be a prank, I think. Although part of it
I agree.
selfish, but I think that was part of the psyop or whatever. It would make it unbelievable. So if they tried to tell people about it, people wouldn't believe it. Kind of like now.
Yeah. And it's also, that goes right into the playbook of how a lot of these things are. They just make it so scrambled that, it's like, people, like you just said, people blow it out of the water.
How would you explain it? Where would you even start? And there's so much that's outlandish and things that sound like they couldn't happen. The different voices, the appearances of apparently his brother driving his brother's car when his brother had rented a different car. It wasn't him at all.
Like a doppelganger almost, like a mimic.
Looking at him, but looking, wasn't looking at the road, but
And
looking over him and tearing down the road.
Is that? See, that's what I mean about it. It felt very Indrid cold to me. Very Indrid cold, because the different ways that, in Point Pleasant, with Keel, that this cold character would act, with the big smile and the faces and the weird, acting strange. So anyway, that day he gets his plane ticket, and part of the plane ticket, again, this is another piece I just learned. He's kind of talking about it, and at the same time I can see his face because it was a visual as well. And he's thinking about it, and he says, to come to think of it, I think I would have had a lot of problems at the airport. So he's trying to think. The interviewer kind of like bumped into him there, and it went off in a different direction. I wish that she should have stayed there, but it almost made it sound like, Steve, like the ticket didn't look like that when he used it, only when he found it later in his papers, decades later. Like it had been replaced
by a fake ticket or a different ticket. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. And that blew me away, because he had said other things had changed, wording or position, or like the emblem, instead of being at the top, it'd be at the bottom, like the crest or whatever visual on the paperwork would be. And little things like that would make him crazy.
And stuff that happened, like while he was waiting on the flight, there was a guy with a clipboard that seemed to just center him out, and answered a bunch of just random questions about his name, where he worked, what he did, where he was going, but didn't seem to be talking to anybody else. He thought maybe it was a salesman or something. And he finally had to board his flight. Well, once he gets on the flight, there's another guy with a clipboard, comes and sits down next to him, starts asking him some of the same questions.
It's real weird. It's real weird.
Pull him off. And finally, the stewardess tells the man, "You're not in your assigned seat. You got to get up, sir." So he gets the seat behind Gary, and then starts pestering him again until finally Gary just, said, "I've had enough. Shut up."
Yeah, absolutely. And I found a little piece of that, a little bit more about a piece of that information there too today. But I'm going to jump back to where he was packing. He's got his ticket. He's packing. And at the time he wore glasses, and he didn't have his glasses on. He'd come out of the shower, whatever reason. I guess they were on the dresser. He hears a loud thud. And it's, what the hell is that? So he goes to look out the window because he had heard it outside. And he said behind him is pretty much just an empty field. It's like apartments or whatever, but it's just an empty field before you get to anything else. And he looks outside and he sees a helicopter, a black helicopter, pulling away from his building, and kind of hovered, went and hovered over where that field was. So he goes to get his glasses and go, what the heck is that? Like, is he landing in the field? Did he just come from there? What's going on? All this stuff's going through his head. Gets his glasses, goes back to the window, sees one guy out in the parking lot, I guess at work, lived there at the apartments, washing his car. Doesn't seem to notice or look up or look at this helicopter. The helicopters are loud. They put off a lot of wind. And this guy's not looking or paying attention, that Gary could tell. He looks at the helicopter. He's like, oh, I guess he's just going to land out there. Must be something going on. Maybe they're having a fair, something's happening. Something distracted him. He goes back to pack and didn't think anything else of it. Okay. He gets to his home where his parents are, surprises, the people there in the house, mom and dad, I believe. And let me check this. I think I have another. I think this one's next. This one. Okay. Take that one. It's going to give you a little background on Gary.
In 1993, Gary Sudbrick was an Air Force captain who was assigned to work at a medical pharmacy in San Antonio, Texas. One weekend, he decided to surprise his family with an unannounced visit. So he purchased a ticket to fly back to Long Island, arriving at the airport early. He was accosted by a man with a clipboard. The man asked Sudbrick for his name, his final destination, and other personal questions. Sudbrick estimated that the man was a surveyor or a salesman and disregarded these questions.
There you go. Hey, Scott, how you doing, sweetie?
And then there was
Hey,
another strange
Relentless. Welcome
where
in,
he
everybody.
called his friend, and the friend said, "Well, you called me yesterday and said you were back in town." And he's like, "Well, I just got back in town today." But him or somebody claiming to be Gary that sounded like him had called his friend the day before and said he had flown in through LaGuardia and was just getting over a cold, when in reality, Gary had flown in through JFK and didn't have anything wrong with it. So there's just all this weird, like, doppelgangers and fake stuff.
Mimics or something, doppelgangers, impersonators, weird people, nosy people asking him a lot of questions, knowing his name. And that's why he brought up the ticket in the interview, Steve, because when the guy came up
here on the screen, I didn't see that.
Okay, it's okay. We can read it in a second. But that was another thing he brought up when he was in there in the airport. He's saying he didn't have the correct name on his ticket even. But this guy with the clipboard came up to him and knew his last name. Are you Gary Sudbrick?
Mm-hmm.
Which he didn't realize how much it hit him till after the fact. He said he was taking all this like slow, again, because you're military, so you're not really sure what's going on, and you kind of like get into answering these questions before you realize you're in it. You know what I mean? And I think he got a little bit into it before he kind of realized that this is weird. These are really personal questions, But you want to take this one? You want me to?
I got it. When he boarded his flight, another man began to accost him. The second man sat nearby and asked similar personal questions until the flight attendant requested to see his ticket. When it didn't match his seat, he was promptly relocated. Sudbrick was unsettled when he arrived at his parents' home in Long Island. He placed a call to a longtime friend, Mike, who was in the area. However, Mike was confused by the call. He said he had spoken to Gary the day before. That's what I was just telling. I didn't know what you had to say.
No, you're doing good. No, you're doing great.
Doing my Nostradamus thing here. Whoever Mike had spoken to was not Gary Sudbrick, but he claimed to be Gary.
Right.
And knew stuff about Gary. And Mike, who was a longtime friend, thought it was Gary. So everybody's confused.
That good. I mean, the voice was that good to, and he had said, like you said, Steve, that he had a cold. Well, I'm glad because when he picked up the phone, the first thing he said, well, you sound better, it was, what? Yeah, what are you talking about? That kind of thing. So again, it seems to me that a lot of people are stumbling into these things and not, in hindsight, it's so easy to look back and go, why didn't you think that was strange? Well, you get busy and you're trying to catch your flight and trying to collect your luggage and doing all the things that you got to do. And somebody comes up and starts asking you questions in an airport, you think they're doing a survey or, something. It took them a little bit, like I said, to realize this is getting weird.
They used to have Moonies in the airport.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Remember the Moonies?
Yeah, I do. Hare Krishnas, Hare Krishnas. Now, the little piece I learned today about what Steve said about the guy, the stewardess did move the man that was asking questions, and he was glad about that because he said by then he was really getting bothered. And the guy didn't go and sit in a seat behind him. He was sitting in front of, he said he was at the emergency exit seat where Gary was sitting. The guy got behind him and just tried to stand behind Gary and continue to ask him questions. He had to get the stewardess back to go and escort this guy to his seat. That's how intense it was, because now he's just standing behind me. He said, and that freaked him out a little bit. And it would me too. It's like he's not going back. He waits for the stewardess to leave. Now he's just standing behind you and he starts saying, well, let me continue asking these questions. Get the hell away from me, man. At that point it would be ugly. Okay, wait. That one's too much. So he said he was spoken to Gary. Okay. So he's at the house, and while he's at the house, Steve, the phone rings. Okay. Let me see if I set this up right. Everybody cross your fingers, cross your little toes, or whatever you want to cross, and hopefully this works right. Here we go. This is the creepiest stuff. This is so much fun. Wait till you guys hear this. I figured you could use a little birds on a wire here. It's coming. And I cranked them as high as I could get them. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Yes. I'll tell you who it is.
Hello?
Yeah. Do you want to speak to him?
There's Gary's Sudbrick there.
Yeah, who's this? Steven? Are you playing games with me or what? Huh? Steven, if you're playing games, I'm going to kick your ass.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
Huh?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Yeah, this is you, Steven, you idiot. You're pissing me off. You jerk. I'm going to get you on... Let's see what it says. Review. One new call out of area. Is Steven out of the
How
area?
long are you going to be back from Texas?
Wait, say that again?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Wait, hold on. Is Steven out of the calling area or what? What do you mean you don't know? He's in Queens. Well, who are you talking to? I don't know who the fuck.
Hello?
Hello?
Here's Gary's Sudbrick there.
You'd never guessed her from Long Island.
I love
Who
it.
is this?
It's Mom.
Sounds like a freaking robot.
So
Hello?
how long are you going to be back from Texas?
What was that again, sir?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Oh, be quiet, Alpha. Sorry, would you see that again? Hello? Being impersonated by what voice?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello?
Here's Gary's Sudbrick there.
Yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, what is your question? I'll answer it.
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
How long?
You're being impersonated by the other voice.
Right. When am I coming back? Is that your question? Okay, there was a break. Hold on. You want to know when I'm coming back to Texas? Oh, is that your question?
So how long are you going to be back from Texas?
How long am I going to be back from Texas? That question doesn't make any sense.
By the other voice.
Okay. I'll be coming back eventually. I can't tell you when. You should know that question, the answer to the questions, because you seem to know more about me than I do. You know what I'm saying?
Are you an intergalactic person?
Are you a space alien?
Sounds like he hung up.
I can't believe this.
He hung up, Gary.
See if he comes back.
All right, I'll hang up.
Okay. This is blowing my mind. So, as you can see, this is the stance that this is taking. This is the cadence. This is the way he's repeating it. He starts out, he's real robust. Is Gary Sudbrick there? You can hear the mom in the background. He's asking, now he's trying to figure out what's going on. So he's more than likely looking down. It's probably either a table model or a wall model, right? He's more than likely in the kitchen or the hallway. This is just the way these houses were, The other line is probably upstairs in the hallway at the top of the stairs or the bedroom, main bedroom, one of the two. Because you're going to hear them saying stuff like, go on the other phone. The other phone is better. That kind of stuff. You'll hear the dad get on and get off. You'll hear him getting angry at the dad. It's like, Dad, because this it snowballs up. Okay. Now, keep in mind what Steve said. He has talked to Mike. He called Mike to tell him he was here. And Mike said, oh, you sound better, blah, blah, blah. You called me earlier. We went through all of that. But that's when these calls started. And for some reason, Gary feels that that is very significant. I don't know how that fits, but I want to make sure I let you guys know it. Now, in here, I don't know if you guys heard it. This is the first call. In there, I heard him laugh a little. Did you hear that, Steve?
Yep.
It was almost like a little, in a throat kind of thing, like he was trying to hold it back, but it was a little titter there when Gary was yelling back and forth to his mom or dad or one of them. She's saying it's a strange voice, robot voice. I'm seeing that in the chat too, robot voice. We're going to touch on that, but I want you to listen to how he's saying it, what he's saying, that it doesn't really kind of make any connected sense. He's asking, repeating the same questions again. But if you're a Keel person, you know that this is also how John Keel explained how who spoke, Steve? The Men in Black.
Yeah.
And friends of Steve's, not mine, the Black-Eyed Children. Is that not weird, Steve?
That's very weird.
This is how it's speaking. You see what I'm saying? Let's continue. But I just find this hysterical, the titter-tatter between them all. Okay, that was the first call. Let me see if I think I've got a card to go with this one. I think I do. Nope, we're just going to go right into this call. This is not Gary. This is a what do you call it? A representative slice of what could possibly look like Gary. But that's probably the look that Gary had on his face at this point. When you say, I mean, how weird, Steve. It'll mess up your night.
Yeah.
You know? Here we go.
What is your question? Yes, speaking. Yes. Could I answer any questions for you?
Are you back from Texas?
Not back yet, no.
How long are you going to be back from Texas?
Let me answer. First, you tell me, where are you calling from?
This is Gary Sudbrick.
Yeah, why don't you tell me where you're calling from?
Who is this?
What do you mean, who is this? You should know who it is. It's me, Gary. Wait, let me ask you this question. Where are you calling from? Okay, I'll be back. Excuse me? I can't hear too well. Yeah, it is a full moon out. That's true. Could you identify yourself? Identify yourself. Why are you calling me? Excuse me? I cannot hear too well.
Get on the other phone, it's better.
Hold on, let me switch phones.
Imagine Archie Bunker's house.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Now, who are you?
It is better.
Keep an eye in the sky, he said.
Keep an eye in the sky?
Yeah.
That's what Kenny I talked to him.
Shh.
I had a sighting over.
Okay, hold on. Say that. Repeat that again. Please repeat. Okay.
Near Orion.
Holy mackerel. Tonight or guess when?
The full moon.
They told
So, double from the jerk.
Repeat.
Tell them I like to talk.
Okay, repeat last word. I'm hearing static.
Tell them I like to talk.
He hung up.
He hung up.
Hello?
Okay. So let me answer some of your questions. Let me put this in perspective because here's my reasoning. I'm seeing what you're saying in the chat, and my job is not to convince you one way or the other. My job is only, as I feel, is to bring you the facts that I consider to be facts because I've researched them to the best of my ability. Hearsay, eyewitnesses, we all know what eyewitnesses are like, you know. So I just don't want you to lose a great story by getting snagged on one thing. So I'm going to explain this. And Steve, if you throw in here any way you want, because if you've not had a phone that's sitting on a table with an old fashioned answering machine, the kind that has the double tapes where you tape your, I guess, message, your greeting, your hello, whatever. And then you get, leave your message after the beep kind of thing. There is a way you can record calls. It was very convenient because all you have to do is push record and you're going to record whoever you're talking to. It was a great service. It wasn't on all machines, but in the 90s, they were definitely the thing to have. Okay. And that's when people were getting, this was even before Star 69 and all that kind of mess where you could go back and find out who's calling you. This was way before that. So it's not that odd that he would have a recording of this. And you can kind of tell that. Now, Steve mentioned something, from his end that he picked up. What I'm also picking up is you're not hearing it from the very beginning. If you notice in the second call, you can even tell more so than the first because he's already been talking to the guy when he decides I'm recording this because he really, really thinks this is Steve messing with his older brother. He's already told him the story about the car not very long before this. This is that happened a couple of months before the call started. The Mike phone call happened earlier that day before he ever landed the plane and told him he landed in a different airport. Didn't you say that, Steve? He had told him two different airports.
He told him that he flew through LaGuardia and was just getting over a cold, but in reality, he flew through JFK and was in perfect health.
There you go. So try not to get too, worry about the recording. And that's kind of how that went down. And then he just, basically
The
saved
curious thing about that is he talked to his friend, or his friend thought it was him. Then this voice on the phone told him the other voice is impersonating you. So there it comes full circle. It was the other voice talking to Mike.
Big time. Steve, it almost feels to me like there's two functions. I'll tell you at the end, but remind me when I tell you about the rogue alien. Just say rogue alien and I'll remember to tell you this at the end because it hit me, last night when I was going through this stuff and I'm thinking that makes so much sense. But if you just back up and look at this whole thing together, it's insane. So where we left, let me explain a little bit about the dad. The dad, and I have a card on this, so it's going to explain it in much better detail than I can remember off the top of my head. But remember that I said the dad and his dad's brother, okay, Gary's uncle, decided they were going to go on a trip from Long Island to West Virginia, quite the little road trip there. And they were going to a certain, I guess it was a tower, an antenna or something that had been hit by what they said damaged and hit by a UFO. And they were going up there to see some signal thing. And you guys are right in the chat that are saying that after all these calls and everything, they really got into the crop circles and UFOs and everything else. But the dad was already very interested in this. Now, when he went out there with the brother to see this damage to this tower, he had a UFO experience. He saw it with his uncle and everything else. That's why he thinks You're not hearing it in the calls, but you're hearing how I want to talk to him. I already had an experience. You're hearing that kind of stuff. That's why. Because in Gary's dad's mind, he's thinking this doesn't have anything to do with Gary. They're trying to get a hold of me. Because I'm the one who saw the UFO a couple of weeks ago. You see where I'm going with this? So
Yeah.
that's why he's this way. Okay. And you'll hear him on the next call try to say that. He's like, you already know that. Are you an extraterrestrial? Are you an interdimensional being? He's saying all this stuff in the background because he thinks the guy's calling to talk to him. Hey, you saw me take off the other night. I recognized you in the beige Dodge over there with your brother. You don't tell anybody you saw me. I don't know what he's thinking, but he thinks this has to do more about him than about Gary. So Gary is still pretty much thinking that it's his brother Steven pulling a prank. You can hear him like, I think this is Steven. And his dad's in the background, Gary, that's not Steven. Okay. So go ahead and take it when you're ready, baby.
It seems clear that Gary believes this is his brother Steven messing with him. But as the call goes on, it seems he grows more and more concerned. It's important to mention here that Gary's father had seen a UFO in West Virginia on a trip with Gary's uncle. Since then, his dad became very interested in the phenomena. It's also odd the caller's strange voice seems to slow at times, almost like it's running out of energy, like its battery was dying. Good point.
This is so good, Steve. Now, this is the kind of stuff I kind of hook into where I go, okay, hold on. That's the same as the Black-Eyed Kids. So many of the reaccounts of Men in Black.
Yeah, the MIB. It's very similar to a lot of UFO cases, too.
Yeah, before and since. That's why I take this a little bit,
and
give it a little more grit.
With the advent of the cell phone and stuff, the witnesses don't get those calls anymore. I've never heard of anybody getting a strange call on their cell phone after a UFO sighting. I mean, maybe it happens, but it seemed like it was more prevalent back in the day for the UFO people, experiencers, to get phone calls, but it would be on home phones. So strange. This is
yeah. I mean, it's there's so much more to this. That's why I don't want you to throw out the baby with the bathwater, because if you're interested in MIB, UFO, all this stuff, or whatever may be coming in the future, because Lord knows they're going to throw everything at us. The more you understand about how this all intertwines and how it matches up with other stories that at the time, without internet, it would have been unlikely for them all to know about each other. Now, from what I understand, Gary's dad was very interested in UFOs, but you have to think back what you have at that time. You had shows, you had your Unsolved Mysteries and all this other stuff, but I don't think he would have known about this. I don't think he would have known about how, as they're speaking in it's food time. Is it, the clothes, the way they, in some cases, makeup and stuff. And I have a story about that too, where they're trying to look like humans or trying to act like humans, but not quite getting it right. Almost like an AI kind of thing. Right, Steve?
Yeah.
So even more unsettling was the call that began to ring on the other line. Now it's ringing. It's weird. One phone would ring and not the other. It's just strange. And that doesn't happen in two landlines in the same house on the same number. They both ring at the same time. Sudbrick answered it at 10:30 that night on Monday, February 8th, 1993. The following is a recording of that call. Okay. Figured I'd give you a little break there, kiddo. All right, let me get back to this, and here it is. Now, listen how it's all the same night, and you've got this low energy coming through. Such a big world and such a tiny world at the same time, huh, Steve?
indeed.
Remember that show that came on, The World's a Big Blue Marble?
Yeah.
I remember that song. Here we go. Beam me up. Yep. I used to love those calls. Oh my gosh, the guy from Area 51, the pilot from Area 51. You don't even care at that point if it's real or not. You just you just want to be a part of it, you know. There's Gary losing his mind.
Okay. Yeah, it's taking time for him to talk. Who is this? Stephen, this is not funny, you know.
You still think Steve?
Brian, it's not Steven.
What do you mean, Brian?
I mean, Gary.
How do I know it's not Stephen?
It's not Steven. Hello? I had a UFO experience in West Virginia, which you probably know. And I know that you're into an intergalactic person. Can you speak a little louder? Sir? Can you speak a little louder? Louder?
Let me speak to him, Dad. I guess, I don't know what.
All right, I'll hang up so you can talk to him. He wants to talk to you.
Okay. Hello, can I help you?
Hello.
Yes. Yes, that's me. Yes, could you please identify yourself? Identify. Yeah, I'm back. I'm in Texas right now. Oh, he asked me a question. No, I'm in New York right now. You know that. Why are you asking me such a question? Yes. Stephen, if this is you, I swear to God, I'm going to be pissed. Huh? I'm trying to listen to him. Excuse me? Okay. Eventually, I'll be back from Texas. Could you speak more? Please speak more. I guess it's not Stephen. I believe it because I'm getting static.
Not at least 3 times.
Let me go on this phone because I can never hear on this phone. Hold on.
So nostalgic to me.
Okay. Okay, please speak. Hello?
Keep an eye on the sky.
Okay. Should I go out right now?
Right.
Right now?
The full moon.
Okay, see, I'm not sure where Orion is now, but we'll go outside.
Show double from here.
It would show double from me. Repeat that again?
Wow. I mean, you know, you can't say it's not creepy. And I can't imagine what you would do if you got that call. Can you imagine being home alone getting these calls
Yeah,
3 in a
that's
row like this?
strange.
Now he's there. He's got his mom. He's got his dad. And God, I don't know that was much of a help because they're in the vacuum arguing. Well, let him out. If you just shut up, he can hear. Back and forth. But the dad, you can hear the excitement in the dad's voice. Let me talk to him. I want to talk to him. Yeah, you know, it's like I saw you down here. He's already convinced that this guy is maybe the pilot of whatever UFO he saw. The thing that also intrigues me is how much he's paying attention to it's almost like would you put up with this? You see what I'm saying? Would you be answering these questions? It's almost like he feels like he's saying it's Stephen. He's hoping it's Stephen, but
But
part
he's
of
still
him,
playing along to find out, just in case.
right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, he's not sure and he's trying to draw this information. Could you say something, please? Now, if it's MIB, the men in black are usually there to tell you, quit talking about it, don't say anything, lose the evidence, don't tell anybody. This guy seems to be telling him, or whoever it is, seems to be telling him, keep your eye on the skies, look towards Orion, all of these kind of things, which doesn't make sense if it was a man in black trying to get him to hush the family up about UFOs or whatever MIB usually does. Does that you catch my drift there, Steve?
Yeah, makes sense.
It doesn't hold suit. It's like he's not doing his job right. Like maybe he's just really confused. He's actually giving him pointers of there's the other guy or somebody is impersonating you. The other voice is impersonating you, and keep your eye on all these different things he's saying. Instead of, it's like a freaking ghost. He's coming out and instead of just spitting it out, there's not any long sentences of, look, you've been talking to people, or your dad's been talking to people, tell him to stop talking, whatever. He's not getting any of that. It's just this weirdness. And it's almost like he's not really sure what he's supposed to do or supposed to say. And he's wasting all his energy repeating the same thing over again, like he's caught up. Or, like a lot of people are saying in chat, almost like it's a pre-recorded message and not exactly interacting with you. Again, very much like a ghost, where it's not really you're not sure if it's answering your direct question, but you're getting something. So you've got all that. And it's just, the more it goes, the deeper it gets. Here's the next thing. I think I'm supposed to play this now. Okay. Yep. You want to do this one? That's the right one.
Okay. Gary still seems to be thinking that this is Stephen messing with him. He sounds more audibly shaken as each call comes in. This would be the last contact the family would have that night. Gary went to bed confused and a little scared and wondering if these calls had anything to do with the men at the airport.
Right. This was the first point when now he's going to bed. You don't know what his dad has said to him. You don't know how much, he's getting prodded there. He finally gets up there and gets to bed. And now that's when he says, in his own words, that this is when he starts thinking there might be a connection, because the way this man was, which makes me think that maybe they were speaking a little bit like this guy, because he was saying the way they were asking questions were there wasn't any, all the extra filler the humans have. It would just like go up like, do you want ketchup on your hamburger? Do you want ketchup on that? Do you want, they didn't change it up. It just kind of repeated the question until he answered it, which kind of prodded it along. But with somebody with a clipboard, you can almost assume that they're asking you questions in the order that they have them, and they're just interested in the answers and writing it down. That's it. Where this phone call just seems a little bit weirder. All right. The next is, yep. Here's the last one. Go ahead, bub.
The next evening, 10:21 p.m., the quiet night was punctuated by the shrill ringing of the phone. Call number 4.
Call number 4. And Marie, bacon is the answer. It's always the answer. Bacon is love. All right. Here comes the last call.
Yes, this is me. Can I speak to you? Can I ask why you're... Yes, can I ask why you're calling? Can I please ask... Yes, this is. Yes, that is me. Say that again?
This planet.
Leave?
We come
staying right here.
To be within this planet.
Is this a joke or what?
The many. To be contacted. As the same with you.
I have to think about that. I'd like to see you.
The many. To be contacted. As the same with you.
Hey, let me tell you something. I've been listening to you. And I've had contacts with you.
Government interference? You have? Please explain what type of interference. Okay.
Visitations to be disrupted by them. Appears. Sun will rise from dark side of world. No.
The sun will rise from the dark side of the moon.
Okay, what branch of the government? What should I do?
Beware. Government interference. Visitations to be disrupted by them.
Okay. Is that good for me or bad? They hung up.
Yeah.
There you go. That was it. 4 calls. Done. They didn't happen again to anybody else. As far as we know, not even like the mom or the dad or anybody else. They didn't get any more calls. So, what are you thinking, Steve? That last one was pretty creepy.
It's weird. Yeah, they got creepier, and that one didn't repeat as much, and it said some new stuff. So
True.
it's an ongoing thing, whatever it was.
Right. And the dad breaks in because he's on the other line, and he just jumps right in. It's like, I already, and it's almost like they got that New Yorker kind of thing. It's like, look, you son of a bitch, I know it's you. I've seen you. I've met you before and all this kind of stuff. The dad just is so fixated that he thinks that it's, I guess, the pilot of the UFO he saw or something. What I'm concentrating on here is he's telling him, the sun will rise on the dark side of the moon, the government interference. It sounds to me like he's trying to tell Gary that they're coming to meet and contact other people, just like with him, just like he's doing with him. And it seems also that he's trying to tell him in the beginning about this other voice impersonating him. This doesn't seem like it would be the same. I don't know if it's an MIB and it's following suit as far as trying to stop things. I think they might be involved. I think whatever this is very similar to, do you remember, Steve, when that signal broke in? It was the alien signal that invaded so many different radio stations, television waves, and all that stuff back in the day. That was crazy. It's something like that, almost like they were trying to make contact, but our government was interfering and going, no, we don't want you to. That could be possible. where they were trying to stop it and being interfered. The MIB could be working with the government to try to interfere that. And this is just a whole nother kind of entity that's trying to communicate for whatever reason. Now, there's 1,000 different things it could be, and it could be a great big hoax. All I'm saying is think about all the aspects, because this could have puzzle pieces that might fit with other stories you're trying to decide whether or not they're true. And so just try to take it all in, because I think it's really, really interesting. This was it. It was the last one. There you go, Steve. When you're ready, honey.
This call seems to be different from the previous ones. It talks about government interference, about the fact that it came to be within the planet, as well as more references to the moon. None of the comments fully make sense on their own, but it seems impossible not to connect them to Gary's family's strong belief in UFOs and the other odd events happening to this family.
Mm-hmm. So true, right? I'll take this one, baby. This would be the last time the voice would contact any of the Sudbrick family. Gary would never see the man that he met at the airport again. Nothing had happened to his apartment. He was very worried that this all meant, especially from the airport, that they were trying to get his address to go rip off his apartment. But because he traveled so much, there really wasn't much there. Not even from his girlfriend. She had taken all her stuff and left. So nothing happened to his apartment while he was away. Gary would only ever speak about the events to a handful of other people. His interest in subjects like UFOs only grew after the events of February 1993. Gary has said that while he has not had any experiences like that again, he has experienced other strange events, some that would describe as poltergeist-like activity. So taking that into consideration, this last interview that I heard Gary do, he did go back to his childhood, and very much like you, Steve, and myself, and many people in this chat, had different experiences as a kid, and they weren't like ours. They were different. They were like, he'd have a 6-year-old kid come up to him at a Golden Corral. I think he said a Sizzler, and just walked up to him and asked him, aren't you Gary same time said, are you Gary Sudbrick? And the kid would yet, yeah, I am. Who are you? And the kid wouldn't say anything. He'd just look at him and turned around and walked away. And he had things like that happen to him. So I'm wondering, Steve, like we talk about this bloodline stuff.
Yeah.
What if? It's just this family is connected somehow, where
connection in there somewhere,
because he's had him as a kid too. But, again, is he adding that or whatever? Now, it's important to know that he's not made any money on this. He didn't write a book, and he didn't do all the things, at least that I know of. He didn't even talk to many people about this. So again, and he didn't release the tapes till much, much longer on. I can't remember how long ago it was, but all right. So where Gary's father and uncle had decided to travel to West Virginia to visit the Green Bank telescope. The giant telescope had collapsed back in 1988, and rumors at the time had spread that it had been attacked by a UFO. Ever since, the telescope had been a favorite haunt for UFO hunters. That's why they went there, the father and the uncle. The older Sudbricks had gone there one evening and claimed that they did in fact see an unidentified flying object hovering over the observatory. This was just a few weeks before the calls. Can you do that one?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Someone suggested these calls came from a Man in Black, or MIB. This term was popularized by John Keel starting in 1967. During his investigation into hundreds of UFO cases over the years, he reported that nearly 50 involved witnesses who were later visited by officials who discouraged them from speaking further and secured any evidence of the encounter. The Men in Black were an organized form of intimidation and retaliation against witness abductees and investigators. There are several correlations between the Sudbrick Calls and the Men in Black visitations. Slowed speech, robotic inflection, and looping remarks, the majority of which occurred over the telephone, and one of the more prominent cases occurred in 1976.
Right. So I made sure I had that in there so you could match it up and say, hey, look, I don't know what it is. Gary doesn't know what it is. He didn't make any money off of it. All of the things you see on the internet mostly are Reddit stories about this case and theories. YouTube videos, some of them very good about this whole case. And just recently, I think he's done one or two interviews in the past, maybe 10 years. And he's very, when you talk about it, he's very, well, I'm not sure. I don't want to really say because that might be, a false memory or whatever. I'd rather stick to this. And I know this. And he's just recently brought up some things that happened to him when he was a kid. So I think that all kind of goes towards this. Like, why would you want to bother? I think it was great that he had the recorder there so we could pick this up. And that makes me wonder how many calls have people got that they didn't get to record, that didn't have an answering machine sitting there. How many of these things have gone on? Because we know they have. I can't tell you whether it's true or not, but I can tell you before we look at this 1979 case that just then, I think it was a year before, just months before, a little movie had been released called Home Alone. And in Home Alone, of course, the story, like right around Christmas time, the kid gets left at home and he's using a lot of gadgets and things like that. Let me see if I can find it. And this was one of the things he used.
Now you can be as clever as Kevin with Tiger's new TalkBoy tape recorder.
Hey, stop drooling on me. Hey, stop drooling on me.
It even has speed control.
Hi, kids. We're home early.
Hi, kids. We're home early.
Tiger's new TalkBoy tape recorder comes with audio cassette. Batteries not included.
Now, I brought that up because as Steve said in the beginning, oh, wait a minute. Steve had said in the beginning, I've actually heard some of the things too, where they slow down the tape and they play it back, or I think they speed it up. And it really sounds like a regular voice. It can be done. And especially now with all the different things that you've got, Bandcamp and all the, different editors and things, you can do that. And you are going to get more of a normal sounding voice. Could it be somebody doing that or using something similar, a voice changer? Absolutely. It certainly could. But does that match up with everything else in the big picture? And once you do that, it gets crazy again. You see what I'm saying? Yep. So I wanted to put that out there just in case you had seen it on another podcast or another interview, that you would know it was out there, that you would know the timing of it. Does that answer all the questions? No. I think it causes more questions, but there you go. The next thing is, let me see if I have that. 76. Yeah. I'll go ahead and read this one. This is the 1976 case. Dr. Herbert Hopkins was a physician and hypnotist who regressed an acclaimed abductee and later received a visitation from someone claiming to be a UFO investigator. While Hopkins recounted his case notes, the investigator had wiped his mouth, smearing away what appeared to be lipstick. So the guy that came to visit him was wearing makeup. The man appeared pallid, which is very pale, and sickly beneath the makeup. He later commanded that all evidence be destroyed. So here comes this guy that's talking like the guy on the tape, that's telling him that he has to get rid of his evidence and stop talking about what he had learned from this abductee. And while he's talking to him, he's wiping his face and makeup is coming off, and he's seeing how white, his lips had no color. That's incredible. This was in 76. Hopkins claimed that as the minutes wore on, the man became increasingly robotic in his speech, began to slow, and the time between words began to increase until the man announced his energy was low and had left. There you go, Steve. Had you heard about that one? So there's a lot of different MIB stories. They're all very similar to this.
Very similar to that. Yeah, a lot of them.
And they started coming in twos. And I believe down there in Point Pleasant when Mothman was going on and John Keel was around, they were in twos by then.
Yeah.
So it seemed like it started where there was one and then there was twos. Now, going back to the Gary Sudbrick case, to me, And I know I'm a wackadoo. So there it is. If somebody says she's a crazy bitch, they're in the right neighborhood. But I got that way from backing up and looking at this stuff in the 40,000 foot view, because when I do, I find an incredible case of a lot of things, and it makes about as much sense to me as the Indrid Cold mixed with everything that happened with John Keel at that time, the phone calls, the weird telepathic thing, the knowing, the what do you call it? Premonitions, like the prophetic statements and things, that whether this was now in the movie Mothman Prophecies, they took Indrid Cold and all these phone calls and all these happenings and said it was all him. Okay. And they mashed up a little time. So you really need to read John Keel's book on the Mothman Prophecies. But there was actually 3. Okay. So 3 different entities, I guess, that were walking around that were acting like Indrid Cold. It's a similar tale if you read the book and you hear John Keel describe how the phone calls sounded to him and the things that happen around the knowing. Gary is saying that he felt like this guy knew. In fact, I think during the first phone call or something, it's like, why don't you tell me you know more about me than I do? Because again, you did not get the first part of calls 1 and 2. He only decided to record them after this had been going on a minute. So you missed the first part. And Gary was getting very upset because this guy knew things about him and it unnerved him. And wouldn't it you? Wouldn't it you? I mean, if somebody just called up and said, hey, I saw you at the grocery store, thumping the watermelons or something, it would blow your mind. You'd be unsettled. You'd be looking behind the shower curtain underneath the bed and stuff. So in that case, let's take a little look at that. And if they shut us down, they shut us down. Let's look here, because I think it's important and I want you guys to see it. So if you haven't seen it, take a look at this. Steve, I'm going to grab hot water.
Okay, I'll be right back too.
Who is this?
My name is Indrid Cold.
Yes, of course, you're Gordon Smallwood.
Your father was born in Racine, Wisconsin. He lived in a green house on Monroe Street. You don't remember how your mother looked?
Okay, you got my attention. Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed. Very good, John. Thank you.
What's my habit?
Chopstick.
You're reading my mind, are you? You're reading my mind.
I have no need to, do I?
What's the third line? Page 51.
A broken smile beneath her whispered veils. Still more proof, John Clark?
What do you look like?
It depends on who's looking.
I want to meet you.
You already have, John. I've seen you afraid. You're frightened right now, aren't you?
Can I ask you something?
Why ask me what you already know, John?
What happened to my wife?
You were there. Very current in her
You will see her in time.
Being forced to see ads? Getting paid to see ads?
Now, again, I ask you, if you were home and you got a phone call like that, where you're pulling chapstick out of the shoe and they're saying chapstick, where they're telling you what you're pointing at in a book, it just amazes me at how quick, and I'm not saying it wouldn't happen to me, but human character can just be manipulated with this a few words, a few out of the the norm predictions or prophecies, whatever it may be, or like he said there, are you reading my mind? It's you start going through this process, like, I have to find a reason for this. What's happening? What does this person want from me? Am I in danger? What do they know? It's so unnerving. And I think that's the whole thing about the phone. When it rings and you pick it up, you don't know who it is, or it just catches you in the middle of your day, and you pick it up and all of a sudden there's just breathing, or there's just, some idiot saying weird stuff on the phone. It can mess you up. And I don't know how many different episodes that I've done where I've told light workers, you have to make a choice whether or not to answer that phone during the day, even if you know the person. Text, social media. When you turn on the TV, when you're turning on the television, you are allowing that energy to come in, those frequencies and those vibes to come in. When you answer the phone, same thing. That's why I tell people you absolutely have a right to go, nope, I'm not accepting that energy right now, and move on with whatever you have to do to get in a spot where you can accept that energy, or just never accept it. That's your right. Every time you do that, you are allowing that energy in. And you can understand that more when you some good mediums or whatever. I can sit in front of one, I can carry somebody's energy with me, and I can sit in front of a medium, and I not the ones I know, I don't have to say anything to go, here, not here for you. You've brought somebody with you that you need help with. And I'm like, yeah, that's how strong energy is. So it's not just the words. It's not just the knowing. It's also the energy that they're putting out in the wave. So if they're operating on a fear frequency, you don't have a lot of defenses if you're not ready for that. So be ready for that at any time when you pick up the phone, or you're turning on the TV, or you're getting into social media. Do you feel drained after you're on social media for a while? Even if you're, just looking at a couple of pictures, heart and a couple of your friends on Facebook, just like, oh, it's good to see, it's birthday, happy, whatever. By the time you come out, you feel a little bit, like you ran around the block. It's because you're a light worker and you're accepting other people's energy. And now you're carrying that around. And I think that really has something to do with these phone calls and how they affect us so quickly, and can have a full-grown man standing there and asking this guy, at first he's yelling at him going, Steven, this is a joke. I'm going to kick your ass. And then he's going, can you tell me something else? Can you tell me, you could almost in that stanza read the phone book to somebody and just tear them apart. If they're going to stay on the phone and listen to you, and you're just reading Ace Hardware, whatever, and give an address. And does anybody remember the number calls where you would get the phone call and somebody would just be there reading off these methodical numbers? Number 9, number 9, number 9, 16, 16. And everybody's going nuts. Don't pick up the phone. Don't answer it. You get caught in this. It's a spell. It's a code. It's Morse code. It's just 10,000 different things. And it had everybody all in a dither. And all the person was doing was saying numbers. And then people would come up with. So again, I think we also have to ask ourselves, like, what's it take to put me over? Because if you got a phone call like that, it might not affect you the first time, but maybe the second time you be at that point where you're yelling and screaming. It's like, who is this? I'm going to call the operator. I'm going to report this call, whatever you're going to do. I'm going to call the police, whatever you're screaming into the phone, because now you have to react to it, and it just continues. You hang it up and you go in the other room, you start folding the laundry again or going about your day, whatever, and the phone rings again. And right away, like every old movie you've ever seen, that phone rings again, and right away the music changes to ominous. And you're like, don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone. And it seems like such a little thing, but it can really do it. And I think that's an interesting question to ask. How does that happen to us? Where if it was somebody in front of us just standing there going, number 9, number 9, number 9. Yeah, it would freak you out. But get the hell away from me. What the heck, right? Yeah, you remember the number thing? That was crazy. There's been a lot of them. There's been some where you call the number and something happens, and then there's another one, so many different things. I think there was one at one time, too, that was more like it almost sounded more like a radio signal type of a thing, where it would just repeat certain words over and over again and stuff like that. Really freaked people out. But this is the next one. All right, that was Dr. Herbert. Okay. Oh, one account of this incident involves Hopkins experienced a telephone technical malfunctions in the weeks that followed when the telephone company finally came to the site that determined his landline had been tampered with. So this is Hopkins in 76, who I guess he didn't stop talking about it, and they came and cut his phone lines physically. So, that doesn't sound so crazy. I'm going to save that one for Steve, because that's a good one. That's just another phone call from the dead or something along those lines. Okay, so this one, how much time do we have here? We're doing pretty good on time. Before we moved on, if Steve can come back, I'm going to have him tell you the phone call from the dead one. I want to show you this because it's a follow-up from last night. And it does have to do with unidentified objects in the sky. It has to do with these drones that are over New Jersey. Now, I got a lot of comments from the show last night. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, and Kat, I'm reading everything you're putting down, honey, and you're 100% correct. And it goes in depth in the beginning of the show, and you're spot on with that. This one is, we are still seeing these drones, and we've made a little progress, not much. I think that's it. Let's see if this is it. Let's get a little update about these
concerns hovering over parts of New Jersey. The FBI is investigating these mysterious drone sightings in Morris County. Residents say they've been appearing more frequently in recent weeks, and tonight many people want to know exactly where they're coming from. News 4's Adam Harding is live in Dover, New Jersey, with what you've learned. Adam?
Yeah, Gilma, this one's really a head scratcher for families who live nearby. They are especially concerned because there's a military base not far from here. There's also a number of residential neighborhoods that for weeks now have been seeing these drones almost every single night. And as police investigate, now we've learned the FBI has joined in as well.
That's not a plane.
The mysterious drones keep popping up in the late night hours over Morris County. Mike Walsh first spotted them in mid-November. Now he sees them all the time.
We've been seeing them every night, except Thanksgiving, they seem to take the night off.
Pay close attention to the three-pronged lights. Mike says he first heard what sounded like a helicopter from inside his home. By the time he stepped outside, he knew it was something else. He contacted police, but so far he hasn't gotten many answers.
I'd really like to see one land and be able to report it, but they're up for a long time. I don't know, where they're taking off from, where they're landing from.
This is a video of the Morris County drones with characteristic triangle lights.
The sightings have exploded on social media, some casting doubt, others concern.
People were thinking like UFOs or people are being spied on.
Do you have any concerns about these drones?
No.
And your reaction to it has been?
That's crazy. I wonder what they're looking for.
It's all over Facebook and all over our website page.
What's your reaction to all of it?
Well, it's a little scary.
I'm like, what is it?
A few days ago, local police agencies issued a statement
Okay.
along with the county prosecutor. In it, they write, there is no known threat to public safety. This joint statement is being issued in response to rumors about the drone activity spreading on social media. We encourage the public to be mindful that what they read online may not be accurate. Today, we learned the FBI is now investigating.
It was going pretty slow. It had 3 blinking lights, red and green.
Christian Velasquez says he saw it too after leaving work the other day. Like everyone else, he wants to know what's going on.
I don't know. It's
all those
weird.
chemtrails
It's
is
concerning
riding
that
through.
there's multiple of these being spotted at the same time. It's not just one of these drones flying around. It's 5 at the same time, and they're all around Morris County, and it's definitely concerning.
Police tonight say they'll continue to monitor and investigate. Meanwhile, they say if anyone has any information, you're encouraged to contact your local police departments, not 911, unless it is an emergency, if you have any information as to who or what is behind these drones. That's the latest live in Dover tonight, Morris County. I'm Adam Harding, News 4, New York.
Amazon hates this, but there's nothing they can do to stop it.
Well, Steve, we're still going strong over here. And a lot of people in the comments were asking, do I think it's aliens? Do I think it says, no, I don't think it's aliens. Because here's the thing.
And that's
if
funny.
it was aliens, you wouldn't see them.
Citizens to call in if they know what it is. How come are the people
But there's no
protecting
known threat.
the Air Force or the government, or how come they don't know what it is? That's my question.
I know. I'm right there with you, my
But if
friend.
you know,
No
call in.
known threat. You know, we don't know what it is, but don't be afraid.
Well, it's not a threat yet. That's what
Yeah,
yet was the
right.
opposite word there.
Like I said last night, it seems very much to me, you know, the guy in the scream mask with the knife coming towards you, and you're just like, oh, this isn't funny. Cut it out. Stop it, Bobby. You
It's
know,
not a
and
threat
the next
until
thing
you
you
get
know,
close
you
enough to
stabbed
stick
in the
them.
stomach.
Yeah.
But no, do I think it's aliens? No, because I think my honest opinion is they got better equipment than that. You know what I mean? Why would they send a bunch of drones with blue light or red light? You know, why would it look so much like us? Could it be another country spying? Absolutely, just like the China balloon. But again, like somebody said last night, we don't even know if that's what it is. That's just what they told us, just like swamp gas is Bigfoot and all these other things. So we know here in this chat and in this circle and Steve's, everybody on Steve's channels that are listening, they're all very analytical people that don't buy, you know, just anything that's thrown up there. Even I always laugh when people say, oh, it's a Bigfoot crazy person or it's a ghost crazy person. I said, let me tell you something. Most people in the paranormal, supernatural, metaphysical are the most analytical people that can take apart, put together all kind of puzzles. We do paranormal Rubik's cubes every day, you know. So what do I think the drones are? I don't know. I don't like it. And I said that last night. I made myself perfectly clear. I am paying for 61 years. I have been paying taxes. And yes, even when I was a kid, because my mama paid through the nose. So I've been bought and paid for, believe me, in taxes and hard work and blue collar trade, sometimes 3-4 jobs at a time. So I hired people through my vote to do the job that they said they could do. If they can't do it, I either want my money back or I want somebody put in there who will. And we should be protected. And there shouldn't be anything coming over our border, in our skies, in our oceans, whatever, you know, in the coast, that we don't allow. And if somebody's allowing this to happen, then they need to be replaced, because here's the thing.
Like I said last night, I can't go out and fly my drone in a national park for B-roll footage for my videos about missing people. They'll arrest me, take my drone
100%.
away, do all kinds of nasty things. But yet,
100%.
whatever this is can fly coast to coast and over this state and that state. They've seen in California and Ohio. And
I agree.
Well, we don't know if any of the citizens have any idea what this is. Call and let us know. Yeah, okay.
Right. And, you know, it doesn't have to be extraterrestrial to be dangerous. We have plenty of armed drones. Have you not seen the drone footage from, you know, recent wars? And, you know, one of our favorite ex-presidents blew up an American in another country with one. You read that story. And you took out the 16-year-old kid right next to him. And that was 2008, 2009, I believe. So, you know, that's how far back. So do I know what they are? Why are they as big as cars? Why are there some small ones, all different sizes? Why are there different kinds? I don't know. But what I did see last night and today is a lot of our local law enforcement here by me. In fact, the video I showed last night is about a mile from my house. Those big boys said, you know what? We're not waiting for anybody. They were sending up their own drones up there. Just see.
What was
Now,
the outcome of that? Have you heard anything more about
not
it?
a thing. And not a thing. If they found something out, they weren't telling anybody, at least not us yet. I haven't heard anything. I got some inside people, and they just haven't heard anything. It's been a long time to not know, To me personally, if you gave me that job first day, it wouldn't even get in. You wouldn't even get in. So I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. Whatever's happening is being allowed to happen for whatever reason. And I think we could go back to the phone calls of Gary. What was the voice warning him of? Whoever's voice it was, what was he warning him of? Government interference is going to be, everybody's always thinking that they know what's best for us. They can't handle the truth, blah, 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 yada, yada. Well,
we're here to help.
Yep, and hopefully some of that will change. Right before we go out, Steve, I got a couple of good little Reddit stories I grabbed just on phone calls and from the dead. And if you wanted to read this one, I'll read the next one if you can see.
From Redditor Box Top 95. My grandmother died of brain cancer about 20 years ago. About 2 weeks after she died, I was hanging out over at my parents' place. My mom got a call. No number, no unknown number, just blank caller ID. She answered it, got quiet, hung up, and went to her room without saying anything. When I finally got to talk to her about it, she said it was her mother, saying she was trapped and please come get her because they wouldn't let her leave, over and over again, and then the phone disconnected. I asked her about it a few years ago, and she denied that it happened for a bit, and then admitted that it happened 2 more times that year, and then stopped, but she didn't want to discuss it anymore. That's chilling.
Isn't that chilling? Now I have one for you. I knew of a young man. They were pretty much, let's say they had a lot of street cred. Okay. And they were from the rough part of the neighborhood, and they hung together and they were trying to stay out of a lot of the trouble, but young men. So one kind of took a different path and, went more academic and went to school, and the other one took a darker path and went this way, and they kind of split up after high school and they both went their separate ways but they stayed in touch as much as possible when the guy kept coming back, and you would see him and he could see him declining. And then when he was at school, he had got the call and he found out that this kid had been shot on the basketball court and he died instantly, and he was terrible, and he really, really, really broke his heart. And he had wished he could help him more. Well, this kid goes home for Thanksgiving. I believe it was. I could be wrong on the holiday, but I think it was Thanksgiving. And again, the phone rings, and it was in his mama's kitchen, and it was a wall unit. And he walks by and he lifts it up and he just grabs it, and he could hear static at first. Then he heard this most ungodly screaming and wailing and just, people, all these voices scream and yell at the same time, very much like that thing you heard on Art Bell where they said it was the hole into hell in Russia. They threw a microphone down there, whatever that was. It sounded a lot like that. And then he could hear his friend's voice screaming his name. And he called his name and he said, and I quote, "I need you. You know what to do. Save me. They have me. They won't let me go. You need to do it. Get me out of here. I know you know what to do." And he's and he just keeps repeating this in pieces. And the kid is just holding onto the wall, and his mom is like, "What's going on?" And he said, "Mom, and he says the guy's name. I can't remember what the name was. He says it's him. And God love her. She did not stop. She didn't ask questions. She didn't ask anything else. She saw a look on her son's face. And she said, "What is he saying?" She didn't say, "But he's been dead a year." None of that. She said, "What is he saying?" She says, "He's stuck. I know what to do." And she said, "Pray." She puts her hand on his back and they prayed for this kid. And the screaming stopped. And the last thing you heard was "thank you." And the phone went dead.
Wow.
That's the kind of phone calls I like. He knew what to do. And I love the fact that mom never asked any questions, just jumped right in there. She knew, she felt the moment. And that's why I always try to tell you guys, feel the moment. Try to sort out what's going on. Don't just take, okay, that can be recorded. It can be messed with. I believe it's a hoax. That's fine. If that's where you want to believe. I'm not even sure what I believe, but what I like to do, and Steve, I know likes to do too, is go, what if? And when you open up the what if door, all of this stuff comes in. You go, whoa, wait a minute. This case lays on top of this case is exactly like this one and exactly like this one. And you don't throw it all out. You take all the information and you put it all in your paranormal Rolodex, and you just hang on to it, because you never know when you're going to need it. Right, Steve? So what's your final thoughts on tonight, my friend?
It's a mystery. That's about all you can say 100%.
I know.
I don't know that we'll ever know unless somebody.
So interesting.
But it's been, 30 years. So
yeah,
most likely they're not going to give themselves away at this point.
Right. And I had a kind of an interesting little take on the whole thing. And I'll tell you now, I think there was 3 different factions involved here. I think the UFOs or whatever Gary's dad saw was completely different. That might have kicked it off, but I think it started with the new information involved and the car driver with Steve. And that was like 6 to 9 months before the calls, right? It was also before the UFO sighting by the dad and the uncle. So when you go back with Gary and hear, even if he's added it in or imagined it or whatever, if it's true, that stuff has been going on for a while, and maybe they just connect into certain bloodlines and know that maybe they can connect to that person is going to be, because of their DNA and their maybe DNA memory is going to be more likely to listen to them. I think you're getting a lot with the guy who saw Indrid Cold. He supposedly, him and his family kept, if you believe it, a relationship with him for after, long after. I think these things go on all the time. I would be absolutely arrogant and ridiculous to think that we're the only, I hesitate to say intelligent at this point, but you get my point, life that's out there, right? You're never going to convince me that we're the only ones, but what's true and what isn't. So I think if we do the what if, and we just take it as a possibility and keep it, it might help us in the future to sort out other things. Thought this was a very interesting case. I'm glad he hit the buttons to record. It was chilling to listen to. They're going to be here. These are enhanced. I did a little bit of it. I cannot take the credit. Another podcaster went through and really cleaned up the audio on this. And I tell you to go back to call number 1 and listen in there right toward the beginning. The caller has a little chuckle, a little titter of laughter there. And I don't know, for some reason, when I heard that, I was just like, it was even more creepy to me. But you wonder, one person couldn't have faked all of this unless whoever started telling the story was just lying through their teeth all the way through, and everybody just joined in. So it's just more than a phone call. So consider that when you're looking back at this case, and go back and listen to those phone calls again. Right, Steve?
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah.
What you got going on this week, my friend?
Let's see. What's today?
This was a fun one.
Don't know. I'll be on with Lee a couple nights this week. And then you're going to join me for my radio show. We'll be recording this week for next Sunday night. Looking forward to that.
Oh, we're going to do some Christmas ghost stories, and we're going to do, I think I've got 1 or 2 that actually happened to me around Christmas. And I know Steve has had some experiences too. That'd be fun.
I dug up some other ones too.
So that's going to be great. I'm going to bring some others along. It'll be fun. I love doing this at the holidays too, but I want to say this before we go. Listen, I'm going to try to do a couple of shows this week and a couple of shows the week before Christmas. It's all going to be Christmas themed movies. It might be an old movie. I want to try to put Harvey up there. I just love Harvey. What's better than a 6-foot invisible rabbit for Christmas? But my meaning for doing those things is, 1, I'd like to have them all in one place for my family and my grandkids, and I want you to experience them if you never have. And it's not just the movie, it's the chat. So please get over in the Rumble and sign up on Rumble. It's free. Because a lot of these movies and things we're not going to be able to see on YouTube, so you'll just get the notifications there. Make sure you hit the notification button, and on here in Rumble, what that's going to be is you just have to follow. If you follow me, you should get notifications. If you turn on the notifications in the settings, and you can always just go back and look. I'm going to try to set them for 8 o'clock, so you can always look and see if I'm going to put something up on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I try to stay away from Fridays and Saturdays because so many people have shows there that they're used to, and they got families in the chat or whatever, their tribe in the chat, and I don't want to ruin that. And but I'm trying to keep something for during the week for us to get together, especially during the holidays, because I know how hard it is for people, and I want to be there for the fam. So everybody get over there and sub over on Rumble. We're also going to be doing shows like Flight 800 and the Oklahoma City bombing, so many other different things, JFK, all these conspiracies that I wanted to really dig into and tell you the truth. And I can't do that on every channel. So that's more likely going to be over on Rumble too. So you get to see Cisco Unplugged over there. Your mileage may vary. Right, Steve? Now, I love you. I love Nick, and I love little Holden, and I hope you have a wonderful week, my friend.
Love you too, Godmother Cisco.
Thanks for being here. This has been great.
Yeah, 2 nights in a row.
Yep.
It happens once in a blue moon. But have a good night, everybody. I'm going to go make a bottle for Holden.
Absolutely.
So, see you a little further on down the trail. Tell your animals I said hi. Thanks, Cisco.
I love you, baby. Good night. I'm going to find you some good music to get out here on. What do you want to listen to? How about let's dance some blues out of here. I love y'all. Good night, everybody. Good night, baby. Hit that like on your way out. Get over there on Rumble. Follow me on Rumble. Get you some of those emojis. You'll be dancing with a candy cane right now. Little Winnie the Pooh. See if we can get tomorrow night. The Christmas mystery. See you then on Rumble, guys. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.